What's going on, y'all? We are back with RFA podcast number, I think we're on number 5 right now. We're moving.
Yeah. We're moving up the ladder right now.
For real. We keep getting the dopest guests, man. So once again, Stevie Zenith, Plex Boogie in the building as always.
Yes,
And today's guest, he is a super dope photographer, videographer. He's done a lot of different shit from Ty Dolla $ign to J. Cole to YBN The Mirror to, Nipsey Hussle, like you name it, he's been there. A lot of the West Coast influences, he's been a big part of capturing the visuals for that. So without further ado, give it up for the homie Simon Shot It. What's good, homie?
What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking time out of your day to connect with us, and shout out to Demrick for providing the plug. I was really looking forward to this interview because you're someone that we haven't interviewed before. Like your style, like your photography and content creation, that's a side that we haven't gotten into, but that's a really important aspect of art and being able to portray that to the masses and bring that forward, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this whole thing.
Well, my name's Simon. I'm originally from Southern California. I've been shooting with content creating pretty much in my own world, I would say, for about 7-8 years now. I kind of go back to that time where Instagram was kind of coming out. It was sort of that new age of content sharing, creation. And so I would say 2012, 2013, I kind of got really in the mix of my own personal journey. But it really started actually with my dad. My dad's actually a photographer. He shot cars, motorcycles, since the 70s. And he kind of laid down the foundation of what it was like to be, an entrepreneur and a photographer, really. So I was kind of under his wing for the most part. And I was young. I was, teenager, stuff like that. I would help him out and I would get a lot of information. And I wasn't sure how to use it at the time, I think. So I just kept learning, and he taught me a lot, kind of put installed that in my head that it was possible to do photography as a career. So, I basically kind of fell underneath his wing, worked with him a lot. And, I kind of lost track of the goal with him a little bit, because you're being the son and the dad, you know what I mean? That father-son business thing, it gets a little complicated. So, with all my peers and everything, I was just, I wanted to do a sport. I was into sports. I was into this. I was into that. It was tough for me to really grasp what I wanted to do. And at the time, Instagram and stuff, and a lot of these creative places and platforms that we have now went around. So, I was kind of in that place, and I would shoot. I had access to some really cool equipment and cameras. And then I started to build up my own, equipment pile of things. And I just kind of took it step by step, but it really started around 2012, 2013 when Instagram started to come out. And I was in a place where I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going to school. I was kind of in that, where a lot of people find themselves is in that community college space where you're kind of year 2 or 3, you're kind of, you can't get into that bigger school you want to get into. And they're telling you got to take this class. And I was just kind of lost in that world. And I just kind of started to pick the camera up a little bit more, go out on my own, really. I would get in the car, take my camera, and just, find anything to shoot. I would drive around for hours and hours and just shoot and learn the camera more, just kind of get more involved and familiar with the craft. And that's kind of where I honed in on my skills, really. Was on my own, driving around downtown, shooting things, It just slowly built from there. That's kind of where it started for me, really.
That's really dope, seeing how you started with your dad. And along the way too, what you start to realize being a creative is that his vision wasn't necessarily your vision and what you wanted to do, but you can still take the basics of what he was doing and then add your own sauce to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things, like with us as digital marketers and owning a digital marketing platform where we teach students how to do it. We obviously have a structure to which we run ads and a structure to which we release content and that type of thing. But we always encourage our students and everyone watching, take the foundational elements of what we're showing you and then add your own creativity to it. So I think that is, dope that you were able to do that. followed your own lane to now, I mean, now you're out here you're really out here. You know what I'm saying? I'll just say that, man. You're doing all types of cool stuff, man. And you've worked with so many different incredible artists. So one thing that I wanted to know, man, is do you see any type of correlation between the really successful artists as far as work ethic goes? Can you go into any stories maybe that you've seen on the road or working with anyone that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, there's some stories. Definitely a lot of differences in artists. I found that they all do have that similar personality, which is they all seem to be very passionate about the craft. But there are some that stand out, I would say, more than others. Everyone goes about their process differently, I think, I found. And, you know, whether it's somebody like Dizzy Wright, Demrick, you know, who are more kind of in the independent lane, but, you know, they're able to find resources and do things. And you know, someone like Demrick is a, you know, a madman when it comes to working. He's always in the studio. He's always making sure, you know, he's got a session or something going on, a music video ready to shoot, and he's a very hardworking, independent artist that, to me, outworks, I think, maybe some of the guys that are signed in other labels and things like that. I noticed, you know, with him for sure, that's somebody that works extremely hard. I'd say maybe that separates him from, you know, other guys. But then you got the other guys. I've been fortunate enough to work with Ty Dolla $ign, who was obviously, he was sort of in another realm to me as far as like what, you know, where he was coming from and what he was creating, and, you know, his talent, whatever. And he had that a certain confidence about him, a certain focus, which was, you know, he was one way outside of, you know, the whole recording process. And once he was in the studio in that zone, it's crazy. So I found that a lot of these artists tend to lock in their own way, but it's very similar once they're in that studio, once they're in that session. They're all very similar. I think it just comes down to, you can kind of gauge where their effort and where their whole motivation is regarding to, you know, and like I said, I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to go out there like that, but there's other artists that have the resources and have a lot of the things that I think the majority of artists would want to succeed. And I think they might not succeed and do enough and succeed as much as other people would expect them to, for whatever reason. And I think that comes down to either work ethic, making the right moves at the right times, and things like that. I mean, someone like Ty was definitely inspirational to see that the talent. He was probably one of the most talented guys. But someone like Cordae, I'll dive into YBN Cordae. He stood out to me because just his passion, his youth, and his energy, and like his focus is crazy. And I think that him and being around him, he definitely stood out to me as being like that guy. This guy's gonna take this next step and make the right next step, and it's gonna show. And it's definitely showed so far, from seeing him kind of like a year and a half, 2 years ago to where he's at right now. I mean, I'm not surprised at all to see that progress just from his work ethic and the way he does, you know, what he does, for sure.
Yeah. That's something I see a lot, man, is when it comes to like professional artists, the thing that separates them from like someone who's an amateur is they really do take this as a real job. Like they take it as a real career. Like when it's time to go to the studio, it's like they're clocking into their 9 to 5. You know what I mean? I've heard stories about like Eminem and Akon, the way that they work, and now you're talking about like, you know, Ty Dolla $igns and all these people. And I think everybody that's listening, you got to really, you know, we always say this because it's so true, man. Like success leaves clues. You got to look at what successful people are doing and how they're approaching their art and their business, and understand that that's the way that you got to do it. I understand how it is. Like you look at all these stories and you look at these pictures and videos and they make it look so effortless, but it's not necessarily effortless. They're working their ass off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just to touch more into that, you're right. I think you definitely get to see, you know, why certain artists are doing certain things and maybe be in a place that they are with their platform. I've seen, you know, what works and what doesn't. I've seen the ups and downs. I've seen even something like when I started back in like 2014, 2015, we're probably going to retouch on this, but something like the Funk Volume situation, which I was involved in. I was right in that whole mix when that whole thing was going on. So to see that, you know, to see the ups and downs, to see other things, it's been a huge learning process for sure. And there's so much that I wouldn't see and didn't know until I actually kind of was out there and just really experienced it. And I've been able to kind of figure out, okay, I want to do this. I like how this works. I like, you just kind of find that routine and that process.
Love it, man. So kind of diving into some marketing stuff too, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how much photographers know about marketing, or if it's something that they dive into, like from your experience, like what is your experience with marketing and all that kind of stuff?
I hate to admit it, but the marketing side of things has always been something I feel like I'm always constantly trying to learn more about and trying to build on. I've been more able to try to bring myself as a service and try to kind of market myself like that. I don't know if there's a certain correct way of going about it in my world. And I think that's an interesting topic because, you got guys that do what I do, and they sort of carry themselves and promote themselves as if they're an artist, a rapper or similar, and which is fine, and they tend to have success with that and stuff like that. But that might come with egos, that might come with different things. And in the photography world, I think it depends on who you are as a person and kind of how you want to show yourself to these clients and to the world. And I think it's just trying to keep it as real as possible, but you could go into pricing and things. Times where it gets tough. Is it okay to post about, hey, I'm doing cheaper shoots this week, I'm doing discounted this? And so I think it comes down to kind of where you are in your mind frame. Do you want to come off as, hey, I'm doing these for this much, I'm doing this, or do you want to kind of keep an exclusivity to it, be more exclusive, and just try to keep it in those lines. But
there's like different ways of marketing yourself, right? Like you can be that guy who's like, hey, listen, I've got this, the sale promotion, 50% off, or you can be who I think you are, is basically just put up their art and just let the art sell itself, and use digital marketing as more of like a way of just kind of brand awareness and just kind of like really showing it to as many people as you can.
Right. And I think a lot of that too, comes from the marketing I do outside of Instagram, and more like the relationships that I've built. I think the more moves I've made marketing wise have been outside of Instagram, maybe some of the behind the scenes stuff that I've done, some of the sit downs I've had with certain people, or just connecting with guys. And I think sometimes that ends up being some of the best marketing, I think, as a photographer and videographer, because you get caught posting and doing this and that, and like you might post, and if you don't have that relationship that's solid in the real world, you know what I mean? That whether it's A&Rs, whether it's whoever, to sort of like actually make these opportunities realistic for you, you might just get caught posting. You might, I know guys, they might have 200,000 Instagram followers for photography, and so many people are liking their stuff, but for some reason they're not engaging with the clientele or the actual, especially in the music industry, they're not engaging. Whether it's just their personality traits or their ego getting in the way, they're like, I'm this cool brand, and there's no knock on any of that. It's dope, I think. But I found that, you can have that crazy looking Instagram portfolio and post amazing work, but if you're not really being kind of yourself and engaging behind, outside of the internet, I think it's a struggle to really make it realistic. And then you kind of get caught in that whole like, well, I got a great following, I got people liking my stuff, I've taken pictures of some artists, you might get some media passes and stuff like that. But if you're not really making the right communication with the right people, you're just going to be, you'll get caught in those front rows of the media, of all these, Rolling Louds and things like that. You'll get in these things, you'll shoot, and you'll have all this great content, but you find yourself at that wall of like, man, is this, what am I doing with this? Is this feasible and all that? So that's what I found with it for sure.
And I tell that to our students all the time. Like, we preach marketing because it is so important. But what you just said is a huge gem, because it is just part of it, though. It's just a part of the total package. You can't just expect to run some ads and then, just do nothing else. Like, you have to still engage with your following, engage with the people who fuck with you, and go out there and build relationships, and then use marketing. It's just a part of it. You know what I mean? But it's a super important part of it. Because like, for instance, like today, like, let's say I wanted to look you up before our podcast. If you weren't up on social media posting all this stuff, like, I would have no idea about how dope you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yeah, for sure.
kind of just interesting. Have you ever worked with like, well, obviously you've worked with some labels and stuff when it comes to the
Yeah.
visual stuff, right? Like, have
Yeah.
you ever had anything like released that you kind of shot like through a label, and ever kind of seen the creative process of, as far as like the marketing side goes, to something that you've shot? And if so, what is that process like?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I definitely, I've had, with a lot of stuff with Atlantic, working with YBN, a lot of, that was an interesting experience because there was 3 artists all signed and all, underneath the same group. And, I got to really get to know all those people, all the inside people and behind the scenes, and figure out, okay, this is how it really works. And then, yeah, I was able to work and create some music videos that were kind of released through them. And so I saw how that worked. I've also been on, the wrong side of it, where I'm not going to name a name, but a certain artist will be eager to, hey, let's drop this video. I don't want to wait on my the label, this and that. I've done that where something was released, it wasn't supposed to be released, and there was like a mess with that. And it's fun to be able to work obviously with those labels, and it's been a good experience. I think there have been occasions where you don't get that full feel of, hey, I did that. That was me, for some whatever reason, whether it's just a lack of credit or this and that. There's been times where I felt like, oh man, I felt I was cut a little short there on whether it was how it all played out. My name wasn't on there right or things like that. So I was able to learn, okay, the next go around, I want to make sure I have this slate up with my name here. I want to have, that in the YouTube space here. And so a lot of the time it was so quick. I was pumping videos out, doing this and that. Things were going up, and I wasn't really realizing what it was doing for my brand name at the time and my name in general. And I think I could have did a better job at, making sure those drops that were being dropped were more based around, or involved me and my name a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of my experience with the label, and having some positive and some negatives with the releases and the marketing side of things, for sure.
Did they ever let you in, like, to see, have you ever really saw like the strategy that they're using, or yeah?
Yeah, I've been in Atlantic. We shot some of the video in Atlantic in New York City. We're at Atlantic Music Group, and we were in one of those press rooms, the conversation rooms they sit in, and it was like, Corday and everybody, and A&Rs and the whole thing. And I was able to kind of like see what they talked about, the blueprints and the ideas, and yeah, that was a cool experience to see how they broke things down. And I've being around it so much, tour buses, you'll see conversations, hear things, and the information that I've gotten is really crazy, for sure. Yeah.
So from that experience, having like that exclusive inside behind the curtains kind of vibe, are they more focused on the digital, or are they still doing a lot of traditional marketing, or is it like a mixture between the both?
The times that I've been involved in the marketing side of things, whether it's just being in the same room, it's been digital more so. I think we're talking about videos, we're talking about Instagram, and even with like the one-on-one, like somebody like Corday, who I have a pretty good relationship with personally, even just like the day-to-day with him, his ideas and his marketing strategy through Instagram and things like that, I get to kind of feel, where he's at with that. But for the most part, I haven't been too involved in a lot of the, I think some of the other sides of the marketing plans, but I definitely been in a lot of the digital talks and stuff like that, for sure. But I know it goes way beyond, what I've seen and what I deal with, but a lot of it is very Instagram, YouTube based, from, in my world.
Sticking with the marketing thing, man, I know you've been working with Corday a lot. What's the most creative marketing rollout that you've seen? If you were to pick one, what would be the most creative marketing rollout that you've seen?
Well, I would have to say, I keep bringing Corday. I'd have to say Corday would be the
Okay.
most creative, just because I was able to see the whole kind of process, and he really put some time, like everyone does. I know most artists do, but he was really able to let me inside on that one. I wouldn't even call it creative. I would call it kind of the most well planned, the most well put together and thought out kind of process was Corday. But it also had a ton of creativity to it. But I would say the process that stood out to me was his, and being able to see kind of like the time, what you can do in a year and how you break that up, and how it all comes to, like, to see him sitting at the Grammys this year was crazy, because I was sitting with him in the studio, him telling me I'm going to be at the Grammys, doing this and that. So, of course, that stands out to me probably the most, is being like, that project, because I was able, The Lost Boy was the album, and be able to see him from day one say, hey, this album's gonna be called The Lost Boy. We're gonna do this and that. To be in the sessions, to shoot a music video from the album to the whole process. That was probably like the full. I was involved in that the most, so I was able to see how from day one, like what that really took. So yeah, for sure, Cordae.
He has like a whole like marketing team dedicated to just his marketing.
Yeah,
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, he's definitely got the, like for instance, I started in the underground, the independent world. So, I've seen the differences in the teams. They grow. It's like this guy over here has a circle of 10, and this guy over here has a circle of 30. Maybe not that, realistically, but they just have bigger groups of people, and there's somebody doing this or somebody doing that, and things start to, I feel like work smoother and more fluently, and it makes more sense. But yeah, I mean, somebody like Cordae I think has a bigger foundation around him, and now he's able to, put all his ideas out there, and it's all going to be possible. And it just, yeah, I'd say him for sure.
That's cool. And one thing I noticed from my conversations with Demrick, we met Demrick about 6-7 months ago or so. But one thing he was telling me is that a lot of these artists out here right now, especially the indie artists, they don't necessarily have marketing teams. He was telling me about an artist in particular that kind of runs his own Instagram ads. And when he told me that, I was a little scared. I was a little frightened, because one thing that I hate is when artists that don't really know much about digital marketing try to run their own ads. Because when he told me he was running Instagram ads, I already knew what he was doing. He was going to Instagram and running the ads from Instagram, boosting his posts and, that type of thing. So he's telling me about the artist results, and I'm like, all right, cool. Well, we're going to do this for you. We're going to do it this way, da, 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 da. And his results were better than the artist that was running ads. And that's just kind of something I wanted to throw in there for you artists and producers listening, that want to do your own marketing. Definitely make sure that the marketing that you're doing is right and correct, because otherwise those results that you think are crushing it, in reality, we're looking at our business manager and seeing the results that we're getting, and it's night and day completely different because of the fact that we've been trained. So just for all of y'all out there that want to be a one-man band and do it yourself, make sure that you're doing it, the right way.
And not even just for yourself, but this all trickles down to your whole team too, right? Because the better marketing strategy that you have as an artist and the better vision that you have, it's also going to help your videographer get more exposure to his work and to his label and everything else. So the marketing is not just important for you, it's important for your whole entire team. And would you say like that vision, like as an artist having a vision and having a marketing strategy, does that kind of like tend to sway like you wanting to work with them a little bit more as a visual producer?
I think it just depends. Like, for instance, YBN Nahmir was somebody I worked with at first before Cordae, and he had a huge platform, and he basically would tag my work. He would tag me in a lot of the photos and stuff like that, and I saw a huge Instagram boost in like my following and my engagement and all that, and that was because a huge part of Nahmir posting and tagging my stuff. So that sort of made me intrigued, a little bit more intrigued about it, because I was like, hey, this is cool. I'm seeing my followers go up and this and that. And, I kind of got caught in that world of, hey, I like this. I like how, in a sense, I like how Nahmir's marketing his work, because it helps me, because he's tagging me and he's showing me being involved. And so like I kind of fell into that and enjoyed that. But I think, and then there was somebody like Cordae that, same group, same label and everything, but he was a different guy. Maybe he wasn't as expressive with his work, with our work that we would do together. He wouldn't post as much, might be a little more picky and things like that. And so I would get frustrated, and I'd feel like, hey man, you know, I'm over here. I'll think to myself, Namir is helping me out with my brand, with my marketing and things like that. And I might go over here with Corday and not feel like I'm getting as much engagement because he's not posting my work as much. He's not tagging me, and so like I would feel sometimes more inclined to work with Namir. But I found that, you know, focusing strictly only on Namir tagging me and getting those likes and followers wasn't the best plan for me at the time. And so I might have missed out on a couple of things, not, you know, feeling like, hey, I want to go over here with Namir because I might get more following, rather than something like, you know, which I'll bring up later, a J. Cole experience, which, you know, unfortunately I wasn't able to get tagged and stuff like that in that whole experience. I was given credit in the thing, but you know, social media, we're talking Instagram, I wasn't getting that immediate following, that reaction that I wanted, like I was getting from Namir or somebody even like Dizzy Wright, who I started with, who really gave me that foundation of kind of people tapping in and being like, hey, like, you know, he's dope, and we follow him. And I felt like, you know, with Namir, I was getting that, so I enjoyed it. But then I realized it wasn't all about. I needed to figure out other ways to market. I needed to figure out how to get my work out there differently. Maybe it was doing better work with Corday that would eventually get out there. You know, sometimes you get caught in, hey, let me just take some photos. Let me just get this. Let me get these tags out there. Let me get this Instagram thing going, and you start to lose out maybe quality of work, better relationships, and things like that, just because you want to try to get that following likes. And I think that's critical to not fall into that lane of like, hey, let me work with this guy because he's tagging me the most, or things like that. I've seen that impact though with being on Instagram and being a photographer and a videographer, having my work tagged. It really affects, you know, the views I get and things like that.
You heard it, yo, artists, tag your videographers, man.
For
Tag
sure.
your
For
photographer.
It goes a long way for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say too was that, I mean, you're a perfect example of someone who's patient and kind of knows how to play your role, because ultimately that's going to get you further than speaking out about something you might be a little dissatisfied about, or something that you're really eager to do. I think you're very wise for kind of just doing what you do, kind of staying in the background, doing your thing, because ultimately that's going to bring you up higher to the point where you start to get the light shined on you. Because once again, referring back to this conversation we had with Demrick, he sat in the background for like 6 months with Be Real, like in the studio, and didn't say a word, didn't say anything, was just completely patient, played his role. And then all of a sudden now he's touring. Same thing with you. YB and Namir was showing more love on IG, but for whatever reason, you actually gravitating more and working more with Corday now. You know what I'm saying? And he's nominated for a Grammy. You feel me? So it's all about being patient. And you have to have thick skin too in this music industry, for real. You have to be able to take criticism well and all that. As you know, I'm talking to the audience, but that's a perfect example of someone that's in this position of being around some high profile people and knowing exactly what to do and how to maneuver in order to take your career to the next level. So, you know, that's just a tip for all y'all out there. If y'all ever come into a situation where you're around a big circle, don't act like your shit don't stink. All right. Don't act like you're entitled to everything just because. Just play your role and watch what happens. You're going to continue to gravitate further and further up as long as you're showing value and as long as you have a value to give to the squad. And in your case, Simon, I mean, you're dope with the photography and you're dope with the video. So you're going to stay around these circles more and more. And the fact that you're not complaining, not saying that you're upset about it, but the fact that you didn't complain about anything. Now I'm sure Corday is telling other people about how dope you are. The other people that work with you are talking about how dope you are. That's how we found you. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that with our audience that's listening right now. Now, a couple things kind of sticking with the whole artist thing, man. What's your advice for artists trying to build with photographers and videographers? What's your advice as far as kind of contacting you, reaching out to you? Do you have a particular style of people you like to work with?
I think if, you know, when it comes to, I guess my advice for artists coming back to what guys like me would be, I think you just have to kind of find that good relationship that feels right. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just doesn't feel right, whether it's the connection with them or just the music or you know whatever it is, the business side of things. You tend to just not feel as good. The biggest thing for me is respect. I think, especially when it comes to like when you start from Instagram DMs, a lot of DMs are coming in. Hey, how much for this? You know, these are guys, artists in small towns here and there across the country, wondering, hey, what's it going to take to get a video with you? And a lot of the time, I guess it starts wrong immediately from the top. It's kind of the way that you approach the videographer. You got to show how serious you are. You got to have that sense of serious and that commitment. You know, respect the business side of things is a huge part. And he's not just going to do this for as a favor. You know, like a lot of guys want, hey, this and that. Like, hey, I know so and so, a buddy of mine. It'll be an artist I shot for. His buddy that I met on set needs a video, so he'll hit me and, hey, you know, I'm the homie of this. And it's like it goes right into, hey, what can you do for me rather than what can we do together? You know, and like somebody like Demrick is like somebody that like will start a relationship with you, and we were able to have a good friend to friend relationship. Now we're like, that's one of my best friends, really, and it's just because he took me serious and he looked at it as like, what can we do together? How can this benefit both of us? And I think when you're doing that, when it comes to videographers and artists, when you've built that relationship with the togetherness, what are we going to do together? And I'll reference, you know, guys right now that are probably doing a good job at this, like somebody like DaBaby and his creative team, who are like a couple guys, and they basically sat down one day and said, hey, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to shoot these videos this style, and we're going to repeat it. This is our formula, and we're going to do this, and it works. And they just have a good relationship. Hey, man, you know, they might be best friends, but you know, they're family at this point. And I think a lot of it is just building that foundation with a good and just having a good relationship with the, you know, videographer. I think that's important. And like, I think a lot of guys try to skip that and try to, hey, you know, give me a discount, you know, I'm the homie, and you know, this and that, and it becomes a favor thing, and you start to feel disrespected in some way, and you know, degraded, and you know, this is what I do, and you never want to feel that. The minute you feel that sense of he's not taking me serious, he's not serious, then you kind of lose interest and lose that excitement about working with that person. So I think that's a big thing, is just having that proper you know, introduction. It just got to be, hey man, like, look, I'm hungry to do this. How do you think you can make this idea come to life? You know, and a videographer can do that sometimes. Take an artist's idea. A lot of these artists want to edit their videos and they have the vision already. And so sometimes it just comes down to finding that videographer that can make your vision work and make it come to life. And then the rest is kind of history, I feel like.
I agree 100%, bro. And you touched on DaBaby, and that's funny because he has probably the most creative, funny, share-worthy, viral type videos that I've seen from an artist in a long time, man. And I wanted to ask you, being that you're a content creator yourself, as far as the artists listening right now, do you have any tips to create some eye-catching content? Because honestly, like for us, we're digital marketers, so we can give you the best marketing strategy in the world. We can run the dopest ads for you. But if your content isn't visually appealing, then you're not going to get your desired results. And that's just being 100% honest. So can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, well, like I said, as an artist, you got to somewhat have a vision of what you want. I think someone like DaBaby just knows, like, this is what I want. I want to look like this. I want it to, you know, feel like this. And I think he's very aware of, you have to sort of know a side of the art. You have to sort of, just like I don't fully understand the music process, I try my best when I'm in the studio or with an artist to try to understand their side of things too. I think as a musician, you gotta, building with a content creator or a videographer or something, you gotta kind of understand their process too and what it takes to make that look good. You know, and a lot of guys are, I want it to look like this, but they have no idea really what it takes, whether it's camera equipment and you know, a lot more money involved in budgets and things. And sometimes what you want isn't possible. So you got to kind of figure out and understand what it takes to make some of these videos and some of these pieces that, you know, something like DaBaby, what he's creating and putting out there. that isn't just $100 video shoots and cheap cameras and things like that. I think you have to understand that first and foremost as an artist, that there's levels obviously to everything, whether it's recording sessions and things like that. There's also levels to the video side of creating it, and I think you just have to understand what it takes to make something, you know, with that type of quality and that kind of fits, you know, your brand and what you're trying to go for.
The Baby is onto something because, yeah, some people consider him a gangster rapper or whatever, but at the same time, his content is so engaging. It makes him look friendly. And I think that's why he's so successful, because he does rap about, you know, gangster shit, but at the same time, his content is funny as hell, you know, and that's why he's winning right now.
Yeah, and I think to tie back into, I think that has a lot to do with just how he engages with, you know, he opened his arms to these guys and said, "Hey, let's like do this together. This isn't just about me." And a lot of like rappers and musicians that I've dealt with, it's like, "Hey, I have this idea. I don't want you involved. I don't like stay over here, but like I want you to bring this to the table." But it's kind of like, you know, you kind of get pushed in the corner, and then you don't feel as engaging. You don't feel as part of the process. And I think there's that gap. And I think something like the Baby, his team, and you know, there's other references. I would even go back to even something like Wiz Khalifa, and you know, somebody that I met a couple of times, Dan Folger, who no longer shoots, but he owns like this gold company and things like that. But somebody like that who was sort of in the game around the time when I started, and Wiz was just kind of letting him be a part of that process, and it more so was photography and posting, and it became a thing like, "Hey, this is my photographer." And it's like that, not only were the fans engaging with just Wiz Khalifa, they were more engaging in, "Hey, Dan Folger over here, Dan's other camera guy." And sometimes it's this crew, it's the crew of guys that you're building and that people are interested in. They're not just interested in the artist and what he's doing. Sometimes they want to see beyond that. "Hey, who's this buddy? Who's that guy you would see?" You know, like honestly, my biggest inspirations was the day-to-days growing up, like the Wiz stuff. I was so into that back in like 2010, 11, 12. That really inspired me to, I remember thinking, I want to do that. And you know, here I am, fast forward almost 10 years, I'm doing it. But you know, I was interested in who's the photographer, who's the buddy that's always on the tour bus, who's this guy, who's the engineer. And I think when you build that team and you build that kind of community, you're not just following the Baby, you're following his 2 or 3 videographers and those guys, and they're getting their followers up and they're getting the engagement. And you know, it all kind of goes like this together, and that seems to be the best way to a successful kind of group and artist you know, connection, is finding that relationship. And someone like Demrick, that's kind of what I have with him. It's like this constant, you know, let's work together, let's do this. He's obviously maybe not as many resources as some of these other guys, but you know, we're able to, you know, link up, connect, sit down and say, "Hey, this is what I really want to do." And we make stuff happen, and we both feel good about it at the end of the day. And I think that's special. But it does come down to him posting, "Hey, this is Simon, this is my guy," and other people got to figure, "Hey, who's the Simon guy?" And that's also helped me get more work. And you know, obviously it starts from there, but building that kind of relationship, it has to be, because I've been treated like, "Hey, you just a photographer, go sit over there." I've had guys say, you know, "You should pay me." Not literally, they joke, but I've had artists where it's like they truly believe that someone like me should be paying for the access, the time, and things like that. So it's all the range of mindsets is crazy. Like it goes all over the place. And like you said, you gotta have thick skin, but developing that relationship and that respect, because we're all in the same boat at some point. The Baby was right there with us, you know, years ago, before he was the Baby, and he had that respect with his photographers, and it just works. And I think that you have to have that respect. That's huge.
Yeah, well, that makes it real easy for you to filter out the people that you want to work with and who you do, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And you kind of touched on some advice on how to actually work with, you know, videographers and photographers. Do you have any like absolute no-nos, like do not do this type of stuff, advice for artists trying to work with videographers?
You don't exchange favors. You don't exchange, you know, you gotta, whether it's $50, you gotta come with something. You gotta sort of approach it, say, hey, what's your rate? What's this gonna take? Even if it's not a, hey, what's your rate? Say, what's this gonna take for us to create? So if you can kind of dive in it with expectations that are kind of, way higher than what you've already discussed with the photographer or the videographer, it's gonna get weird. I think you just have to first kind of put those guidelines down, figure out, okay, how are we gonna make this work? Like I said, I think jumping into it that, hey, I'm the homie, or hey, I'm, this favor here. If I do this, we'll do this, and I'll get you a pass for this, and just the kind of like, you got to just, it's a business, and at the end of the day, so I think you just gotta, like I said, that respect is everything first and foremost, and just don't try to jump over that first line of communication, which is, hey, how are we gonna make this work? And some guys are really good at it, and some guys aren't. And I think that's a huge part of the process. And being taken seriously is huge, because it starts right there. Like I said, I'll know instantly whether you're serious or not, how it's the way you DM or the way you respond, or things like that. And I think that's the hugest part, is just approaching the photographer or the director the right way, and with respect, and treat him like he's a business, and it's something like you're online buying a product or any other thing. You just have to pay. You're going to pay for it, for what you need, and it's a business. Treat it like a business, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to work out. And I think you'll find that if you show that respect and show that from the beginning, the director, the artist will, he might back off a little bit and say, hey, I like you, I like this energy, I like your ideas here, and I think we have something here. So let's work on, let's pump a couple of videos out. Let's figure this out. And then it might turn into, hey, we'll figure it out later. I like where this is going. But if that relationship isn't good, then you're not even gonna get that far when it comes to things like that.
Facts. Yeah. I mean, we are really big on that. We talk about that all the time. It's all about energy. Everything is energy in life, right? So this whole law of attraction thing, like, what you put out is what you get back, right? So if you approach somebody looking for favors and you're not taking them serious, then how can you expect other people to take you serious as an artist or as a creator, as whatever? So, if you're reaching out to, this is a huge tip for y'all, and I hope y'all are really diving in and really listen to this, because we know, like, for a fact, we've talked to a lot of people at labels and people who are in positions to sign artists, and visuals are an absolute must. It is not like a should. You have to have really dope visuals. So if you don't have a really dope videographer or photographer on your team, it's something you have to figure out. So this is a really, really big gem, and I appreciate you, giving that tip for them, man.
It's definitely good to have a videographer on your team. I go back to, you mentioned the day-to-days with Wiz Khalifa. I go back to like Tree J TV with Mac Miller. That was really big too. We were all a part of that era, and kind of looking at all the content they were continuously cranking out every single week. You know what I'm saying? That, I think artists that can pull that off and really, really collab with a videographer like that are gonna win, because you're literally in the lab just creating. Anytime you have an idea, yo, bring out the camera, let's shoot something. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's really important. And one thing that I want this audience also, don't neglect free work either. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's the right situation. For us, we do free work for certain individuals that we feel we can gain more by adding value to them, depending on, the platform they have and the relationship and things like that. Have you ever done any free work because you saw the bigger picture, the bigger vision with what you were trying to do?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's some of my favorite work and best work tends to be stuff that isn't approached with too much of a business side of things. And when it comes to music artists and directors and videographers, I think the huge thing is the connection, I think, that you have with the artist and the music that he's making. So like somebody like let's say a Cole Bennett, right? He's coming from a place where he's only going to shoot and produce stuff that he likes, and a lot of the time with that, I mean, music wise. So if he likes the sound, I think that's his formula. And I'm not speaking for him, but I think I can kind of gauge like what certain guys do and what things. I think for a lot of people, directors and content creators, I think you have to really be into it. You have to either like the music, you have to feel that artist, you have to be engaged in that. So yeah, I've definitely in the past done stuff which was free. I've done plenty of stuff for free for nothing. And the first initial stuff you tend to do, you know, for little to nothing, and you build. And sometimes you know when it's right to make that move, to stand up for yourself. You know when to back off. You know when to just work and keep your head down. I think you just have to stay kind of engaged in what's in front of you and what's the best move in the right situation. It's not going to work the same with everything, I think. And I think I've just been able to kind of gauge, okay, this guy, like, if we do a couple of things here, this might lead to a tour down the road, or hey, this might lead to you know, me getting connected with an artist that he's got a feature with. If I go into this session, and you know, you just got to play those cards, and then kind of like figure out, you know, there's ways around. And it's just, you know, especially living out here in LA, you know, it's a who you know type of thing in the industry, big time. So yeah, but I think it's definitely, you gotta build that relationship, that solid foundation, and you gotta like the music. Even if you might be good friends with your buddy, but if you aren't connecting, you know, like your best friend might be an artist and you might be a videographer, but if you guys aren't on the same page, maybe not vibing with the music fully and coming up with that passion and those ideas, it's going to be hard. So I think it just starts from what you like as a videographer and as a content creator. But as an artist approaching me, you know, you got to find where we have similarities and ideas and things. So, you know, once you find that kind of, you know, similar idea level of things, you'll definitely produce really dope stuff. And I think it's being good vibes, being a good person goes a long way. You know what I mean? I think that's just huge in the business for sure.
The ultimate goal for videographers and artists should be to find an artist to build with. It's just like being a producer, a music producer. Find an artist to build with and form your own Megatron, because that tends to provide the best opportunity for both parties to win. So I know we don't have a lot of time. We've been on for about, how long we been on, Plex? Like,
yeah, we've been on for about an hour or so we can.
Damn.
Yeah, we've been rapping.
I thought it was 20 minutes. I'm like, damn.
That's how it goes, man.
I'm having fun. I like this, guys. Thank you.
It's a cool vibe, man. We appreciate you being on, man, and dropping all these gems, because this is awesome to hear from. You know, because a lot of artists don't get the opportunity to really hear what it's like, you know, from someone who's like really doing it, like in the business, like not just working with, you know, Joe Schmo down the street, but bro, they're, you know, in Dubai with Ty Dolla Signs, and you know what I'm saying? Like, so this is really, really, really awesome stuff, man. This
is kind of random, but man, like, you worked with Nipsey, man. How was that? What was that like working with Nipsey, shooting Nipsey?
Well, that experience was obviously crazy, but it wasn't as personal as it looks maybe on Instagram. The craziest thing, first of all, was I was a huge fan of him. So growing up, like back to 2010, 11, I was at his shows. I was the guy, you know, I was a fan. And so like listening to his music really put me in that entrepreneurial, creative, go get it mindset. And so like, yeah, that was dope. So, you know, I was able to, through connections, like a lot of content creators out there, if you're listening, they don't realize that there's a lot of other directors and other guys out there that want you to get involved in their projects and their work. So, you know, I got hit up by this one guy named Mandon Lovett, director, producer, and he's really dope. This specific occasion, he had a little short documentary. You've probably seen it on Revel about Nipsey. And that piece was being shot that day. So he had me come and said, hey, I'd love for you to come out. Your photography, your documentary style stuff is dope. I think it'd be perfect for this Nipsey shoot. So, you know, let's do it. This was like 2017. And so I pulled up to that, and they were shooting and doing their thing. And there was a moment where Amanda said, hey, we're going to go inside and set up another shot. So Nipsey was kind of outside rolling up a blunt and doing whatever, just kind of vibing out by himself. They said, go out there and take some photos and try to capture him in that moment. So I was able to take some photos, and we didn't really communicate much. I just kind of, you know, hey, look this way kind of thing. And I let him do his thing. I kind of just shot documentary style, and that was dope. I mean, it was a certain energy to him. He was so calm and like focused, it seemed like. And it was, I remember walking away thinking like, man, this dude was so like calm. He had so much going on. It was like, he was on the phone, and then it was like he went to the shop, did a documentary piece, and then he was over here at this other shop he had, and it was like you could just tell he was just all over the place. And I'm like, I remember thinking, man, he looked so composed and so focused. And I thought it was dope seeing that. And I feel like I captured that in some of the images that I have of him. So that was real special for sure.
For me, I'm actually just really interested, like, what's next for Simon, man? Like, what you got working on right now, and what's kind of like next on the books for you?
It's just, growing. Like every creator in this business, you got to make sure you're still pushing that envelope up a little bit. So my goal is just to keep pushing that up. I'd love to take what I've done and build it more solidly, maybe with more artists, newer, younger artists, try to help them find guys that I really like the sounds of and things like that, really just try to catch waves with people. And I think that's where it comes creatively for guys like me is finding those new and incoming sounds, things that you really like, and just taking it up a notch, whether it's production. And you're going to see a higher level of stuff coming from me definitely in the years to come. So that's just my goal. But stay humble, stay, that's the biggest thing, is just staying grounded. It doesn't matter what I did last year or yesterday. It's like, what are we going to do next tomorrow? So just keeping that humble and chill vibe. It just bring, I'm definitely taking it up a level, that's for sure. So that's going to be my next move, is you're going to see bigger and better stuff quality wise out of me. It's not about who you work with, it's about what you're doing and how you feel about your own stuff. You can't expect someone else to tell you that this is amazing. You have to feel like this is amazing. You got to know it's amazing. And that's like the biggest thing for me now, is what I've learned is like not letting J. Cole or not letting a name like Cordae or someone to distract me from what I like and what I think is great. And it's not about the names and all that stuff. So I think just building it and making my product better where I'm happy with it. And that's the biggest thing, I feel like. For sure.
Yeah, that's fire, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you got coming up next, man. For real, I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate it.
And also, like, and I'm a fan of just looking at your stuff, honestly, for the past like couple days, man. So if you have any questions about marketing, any advice or anything, bro, feel free to hit us up.
Yeah.
We're open.
Oh man. Yeah, I've definitely started tapping with you guys too, and you guys have so much information, especially for me. So yeah, I mean, for sure, we're definitely gonna be in touch. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
You part of the squad now, bro. You know what I mean?
RFA squad.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I mean, we know a lot of the same people too. Shout out Dame, Kato, and like I was with them. It's all family, so we all in the same kind of group. So it's dope to finally meet you guys too, for sure. Just being on this call with you guys, I'm definitely motivated. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, man, no problem, bro. So we'll go ahead and hop off, man, and we want to value your time. And where can everybody find you, man, on Instagram or your website or wherever?
Instagram, Simon Shot It. It's pretty simple. Simon Shot It, all one. SimonShotIt.com is my website right now. And there's a lot of my work's up there. You can tap into all the YBN stuff. Shout out them. Dizzy Ride, Demrick. You'll continue to see a lot of my work with those guys. And thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Don't go and hit this man up asking for free damn photo shoots either.
Hey man. Hey man, I'm all ears. Please hit me up. Let's work. I'm definitely excited to meet some young, dope, creative artists. So don't be afraid to hit me up, please.
Well, yo, we appreciate you, Doug. Appreciate your time. Definitely hit Simon up if you want to work and get some things done. This has been a Gemathon once again. This is the RFA podcast. We're providing you with the best value possible. So continue to tune in each and every week, and we'll see y'all.
Peace.